let's go straight in. All right.
Let's
I've
go
got some
straight
stuff
in.
up. All right?
I'm ready to become a man, Nick.
Yeah, I'm going to teach you from this one website that was the most understandable out of all of them, astronomytrek.com.
Okay.
And the
That's what
article
it's
is
called. What? Sorry,
entitled
it's called what?
5 Bizarre Paradoxes of Time Travel Explained.
Whoa! I hope that's in capitals.
It's not. I just felt like putting a bit of excitement
We need to write to these guys and ask them to change
man,
it. Nothing.
You
Can't truly explain anything if you haven't put it in capitals.
Exactly. It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't. Go on, far away, Nick. What
let's
are we looking
go in. So
hang on, am I actually ready for this? No, okay, hang on. Okay, I've got water. I've got a couple.
Just prep. Okay. So it starts off, all right, and this is, I don't know why they've done this here. They basically, before we go into the paradoxes, there's like 5 of them here. I'm not going to go through all of them because some of them are bonkers, but I'm going to go through like the most like interesting ones.
Okay.
But before they say any of this, there's 2 like bullet points, numbered 1 and 2 things, like 2 broad categories of time travel paradoxes. And just these categories will just really give you a little insight into how okay, so the first is, it just goes straight in here. Closed causal loops. Okay.
I'm already lost.
All right. Okay. Hang on in there. All right.
Okay.
I'm just going to read what it says. Such as the predestination paradox and the bootstrap paradox. Yeah. Which involve, so a closed causal loop involves a self-existing time loop in which cause and effect run in a repeating circle, but is also internally consistent with the timeline's history. Now, that makes no sense when you're just thrown in like that,
Yeah.
right?
I think I know what it's
kind
saying.
of. All right, and then the second is consistency paradoxes, such as the grandfather paradox and other similar variants such as the Hitler paradox and Polchinski's paradox. And these are paradoxes that generate a number of timeline inconsistencies related to the possibility of altering the past. All right. Okay. So they just throw you in straight in there with that.
Yeah, they're not explaining anything yet. They're just like, these are words.
Exactly.
I think I know what they're saying though, from my very limited and vague understanding of time travel, which I have. And we should preface this with saying, never done.
No, we are not scientists, even slightly. But I will say, there's a couple of things that like I recognised through like watching films and shit, because there's a few paradoxes that are like the main things that come from like film time travel. Right.
Yeah.
So let's just go straight fucking in, baby. 1, predestination paradox.
I think I know this one already. I think this is one of them. Like,
this is
a classic.
One of the most famous, right? Predestination paradox occurs when, I'm going to try and read this in like the shortest, most least boring
way. Put it into layman's. I'm
trying, but it's very hard. A predestination paradox occurs when the actions of a person traveling back in time becomes part of the past events and may ultimately cause the event they are trying to prevent to take place. All right?
Yes.
So that results in a temporal causality loop, all right, in which event 1 in the past influences event 2 in the future.
Look at us. We sound like scientists, mate.
Okay. Which then causes, in a loop, event 1 to occur.
Those ones, I as soon as you start thinking about ones like this,
it's
like,
fucking
I mean,
mental.
this is the first one of 5, and I'm already, like, as soon as you start thinking, you're like, no, this does hurt.
Exactly.
So this is the whole idea that let's say I went back in time to stop something from happening.
Well, okay.
But what I did in the past is actually what made that thing happen.
In the first place.
Yeah.
So it's always a loop, all right? So they've got a little bit of an example here, which clears it up a bit, all right?
Yeah, I love an example.
But so before we get to that, it just says, this paradox suggests that things are always destined to turn out the same way, and that whatever has happened must happen, all right? So it can't be changed, all right? And then it just says, sound complicated? Like, fuck you.
What a cheeky little quip.
I'm trying my best.
Absolutely.
Imagine that your lover dies in a hit and run car accident, all right?
Okay, so it's a nice, light-hearted
really
example.
light-hearted read here, all right?
Yeah, okay.
Imagine that your lover dies in a hit and run car accident. And
We've all been there.
Mate, happens to all of us. And you travel back in time to save her from dying in that accident. Okay, only to find that on your way to the accident, that happened.
You're lost
trying
already,
to
aren't
prevent.
you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
On
right.
the way to that accident, you are the one that accidentally runs her over. All right.
Oh, God.
Your attempt to change the past has therefore resulted in a predestination paradox. One way of dealing with this type of paradox,
killing yourself,
is to assume that the version of events you have experienced are already built into a self-consistent version of reality, and that by trying to alter the past, you will only end up fulfilling your role in creating an event in history, not altering it.
The thing that okay, I'm with you, but the thing that truly fries my head about this one is that, like, so at the point of realization that what you're doing is actually what impacted the future or your past, if you're the one that's gone back in time, there's that point where you're suddenly like, oh, I didn't, for this whole time I didn't know this is what was happening, and now I know. What do I do with this information? Because now, okay, so what everything you do from there on is now.
Well, I feel like that's part of the thing of, like, well, obviously time travel, I don't think is a thing, but obviously that's part of the reason why it's like fucked, isn't it?
Well,
that's the point of a paradox.
Isn't apparently time travel is technically possible in so much as you could if you beat the speed of light, you could get to the future before real time gets there. But I don't think it's so as easy. I don't think you can actually go back.
Well, mate,
time you can just technically be closer to the future than the future itself.
100%, mate. Well, I have no idea what's happening, but I do have a little bitty bit of trivia here that I found in my research.
Is the trivia that this actually did happen to me?
Is that
my
we are
girlfriend
all
was killed
living
in a hit and run
in 2057? Basically, there is a person that has technically time traveled, and he's like a NASA.
No, there isn't.
Scientist person who was on the space station, right, and then he came back, and because of and honestly, do not hold me to this, I just read it on a random thing.
No, this is all on record now, man.
Because of the whatever the fuck happens when you go into space, because it's technically like,
well, I assume you just get cold, mate. You just get cold.
You just get a bit frisky. Sorry, that's not what I meant. Nippy.
Frisky, you could get a bit frisky in space.
Frisky on the ISS.
Look, do you, mate?
Look, mate. Honestly, frisky on the ISS. It's the name of my my autobiography that's coming out.
That's a pretty good name for it.
It's pretty good. I'd read it. I would.
Yeah,
I would. But basically, because he went up into space and then came back, and something to do with the distance and the fact that
and is it how time
basically
differs?
Apparently he's 0.02 of a second ahead of his life. So, but you'd never, I mean, to that point technically but also fuck off.
Isn't that
0.02 of a second? That's
used to fry me as well when I used to think if I don't know if this is actually, I might be the world's dumbest person for thinking this, but whenever, let's say, I'm calling you now on Google Hangout.
Yeah.
And if you're getting a delay.
Yeah.
Are you technically getting,
well, no, because you're waiting. The delay, it's not like the delay is immediate for me. A delay would still be, how would I word this? If you were speaking to me right now and there was a delay of a second.
Yeah.
I would... if I asked you something, you'd still delay before you spoke. It wouldn't be like...
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Do you know
time
what I mean?
is still happening, yeah. This is what I mean. I think when I was little, I was just like, wow, does that mean that other people are... I'm just, dumb little 100%.
Right, let's get onto another paradox. I'm skipping a few of them because this would be long if we went into all of it.
Are they going to be quite... And also, I imagine they're going to be quite similar, some of them.
They're all sort of revolving around, the same sort of concepts, but...
Right.
I'm just picking the ones that are the most sort of well-known or interesting, right?
Yeah, of course.
So let's go. We're skipping forward to the number 3 on this list, and that is the grandfather paradox, right?
I think I know this one as well.
This one. So just a heads up. I'll go back and say that the predestination paradox that we just spoke about. An example of it in a movie would be.
The film Predestination, maybe?
Yes, 100%. Yeah,
of course it would. It's the name of the film.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Hang on a second. Yeah. This just
what?
in. Yeah. Predestination, the movie, is about the predestination paradox.
Look, mate, that's blown my mind more than the actual paradoxes.
Absolutely.
But also the time traveler's wife. That would be an example.
Was that the one with Keanu Reeves? No?
No, it's
Eric
the one
Bana.
with Rachel McAdams and Eric Bana.
Eric Bana.
And he says, "Hey man, has anyone seen my banner?" And they say, "What
And
banner?"
then he says, "Hi, I'm the time traveler's wife." No, she would say it. Oh,
yeah, you fucking sit down and think about what you've done.
Next one, come on. Tell us about the old granddaddy paradox.
Next question.
Okay,
so it's grandfather paradox. So just for reference, this is from movies. This is why you would have heard of it. It's the same sort of paradoxes that are in movies like Back to the Future, basically. So
is this where you would become your own grandfather?
Do you know what? I've read through this and I can't remember. So that's how boggled my brain is by all of this. So you're placing bets. It's that. Let's go. So I'm just going to read this. The grandfather paradox concerns self-inconsistent solutions to a timeline's history caused by traveling back in time. For example, if you traveled to the past and killed your grandfather, hence the name, you would never have been born and would not have been able to travel back to the past in itself.
Okay, so this is right.
And that's the paradox. So
taking something out of your own history would you wouldn't exist.
It's basically like if you went back and killed your grandfather, then you wouldn't you wouldn't be able to exist to do that in the first place, because by killing your grandfather, he wouldn't be able to give birth to give birth. Of course, he wouldn't be able to give birth. He wouldn't be able to have your dad and then your dad, like all of that shit.
And then, speaking as a top scientific official on this, obviously the way you'd discover is you'd stand there with your friends. You'd probably be with your friends, and you'd start to slowly fade away from the frame, and you'd go, "Help me! I don't know what's happening, guys." That is the exact scientific noise everyone would make.
It is that, honestly. Yeah. Look it up.
Mental, mate.
Yeah, so continuing. So it says, let's say you did decide to kill your grandfather. Fucking hell. This is, honestly, they're just making assumptions.
This is the world's most depressing. First, it's examples
really
about your girlfriend dying in a hit and run. Now it's like, you should. We're not saying you should, but what if you did kill your granddad?
If this article was just slowly putting into your brain that you should kill your grandfather.
It's like fifth paradox on this article. It's like, forget time travel. Here's why you should kill someone in your family.
Yeah. So it says, let's say you did decide to kill your grandfather because he created an evil empire that ruined the world. All right, great, nice. Okay,
that's a good
great. I'm willing
reason.
to go for it. Okay,
it's a good reason.
Says you figure if you knock him off before he meets your grandmother, then the whole family line, including you, will vanish and the world will be a better place.
Right.
According to theoretical physicists, the situation could play out as follows. Okay.
Wow.
Oh, fucking hell. All right. Timeline protection hip-hop. All right. No, this is too much.
Are these solutions?
They're talking about multiple. Right. So, let's just get onto a bit of solutions here, because I'm just going to mention those. Basically, those are the two paradoxes that make the most sense. Right?
If you killed your granddad, you wouldn't be alive to then kill your granddad.
So there's a few solutions. It doesn't. I'm just winging it here from what I remember from watching a YouTube video earlier. So this is going to go horrifically wrong, right?
Okay. Go on.
But there's like. The main solution to like paradoxes as a whole in general is like the idea of multiple universes,
or like multiple timelines and shit.
So basically, if you were to, I can't remember who it was. I watched a YouTube video earlier, and it had all of these like played out, and the diagrams were like straight lines.
Man, you went hard.
And it would be like if you go back. So if point A is on the line, and that's where your, let's say for this one, your grandfather is, all right? And then point B is where you are in the present. And then you choose to go back to point A to kill your grandfather. In this paradox, it would mean that you don't exist in point B.
Yeah, so the line
just keeps going, and then you would get, so just whatever, you just be in one thing.
Right.
Whereas the multiple universes hypothesis is basically that when you go back and do the thing, all right? Stick with me.
You're making it difficult.
You can literally hear me.
All right.
Right. So when you go back from point B to point A to do the thing, it actually starts, because that didn't happen. That starts a new line off.
The line's in a different direction.
Like an alternative universe.
Wow.
But the only thing this is where it really gets to like actually blow my mind is that surely if you went back in time to do something and then that started another parallel thing or whatever, great. But by going back in time to do something and appearing in the past, right?
Yeah.
You now exist in the past. So that always happened, right? So
yeah.
So was there always? So how can that always exist? If there's alternate.
Well,
because do you know what I mean?
the point where it then, if you went back, let's use the grandfather example, like you just used there.
Yeah.
The point where you went back in time and killed your grandfather. So that killing your grandfather is point A.
Yeah.
Obviously, before that, you haven't come back in time.
Yeah.
So that is, why would that change? Of course that wouldn't change.
because that's the whole thing. But before that, you will have gone back in time because by going back in time in your future thing, like for that to work, for example, for you to have killed your grandfather successfully and it stop what's happened now in the future, you have to be in the future to know that that's stopped, right?
Yeah, but
for it to have
your
worked,
second
you
half
have to
of the
have been
timeline.
back in the past. But that's what the loop is. That's always been your past.
Yeah, but the point is, the two timelines can coexist, right? Is that it?
Yeah.
So the half of the timeline where you are living after having killed your grandfather is a different part of the timeline. But that first half of the timeline where your grandfather lived his life or whatever, and everything before that was where those two timelines were the same timeline, but it's just branched off. Fuck. I need a beer.
Yes. Yeah.
Let's just wrap that up.
Yeah,
with
right.
Yes.
So that's
the answer to time travel paradoxes is yes.
Years in the future, we're both the president. Oh, Mr. Wilson, president, can you please just explain the time travel that we have now invented? Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Great,
Thank you.
Great. There you go. He's done it.
Crowds all stand up, standing ovations.
This is a